What would you do with an additional $1,000 a month? What about 2,000 or 3,000? How would it feel to know you have money set aside for any unexpected challenges or costs that might come up, to be able to pay down your debt faster or save toward larger purchases, dare I say, some world travel with your family? That's what we're going to talk about today. Money saving hacks that don't have to sacrifice your lifestyle in order to occur. And I think that there are some questions that we want to make sure that we ask ourselves and some strategies that will make this easy to put it on autopilot. So you'll want to stay around to the end because I'm going to share all of those things in particular and also why I think you might not make this happen. So the biggest mistakes or the things that might hold you back from being able to get these results. Now I can speak about this confidently because I've personally been able to save thousands and thousands of dollars in short amounts of time, $30,000 in 6 months to be exact. And I've got so many students who've been able to do the same. Now, they're using the same strategies that I used in my own personal journey and implementing it in their own. And if you are someone who's like, you know what, I love a YouTube video, but I want to go deeper, then go ahead and use the link in the description below to book a complimentary financial consultation with me, where I will likely tell you how much is possible for you to save monthly in your financial journey. So use this opportunity to do that now, and then let's dive right in. So, when we're talking about how to save without sacrificing your lifestyle, first we have to get clear on what your lifestyle is. So, what is this lifestyle that you want to make sure to maintain? And having absolute clarity on that will make it easier for us to ensure that when you're saving, we're not cutting into that. Does that mean you want to get the lattes every day? Does that mean that you like to be able to invest in your wardrobe on a monthly basis? What do you value? Because when we're talking about lifestyle, what we're really talking about is what you care about. And so either coming down with a list of those values or just being able to take some time to reflect on what really matters to you most so that we can plan for that ahead of time. And when you get clear on what you value and what your lifestyle is, it actually makes it easier to save because then we can be able to get away from all of the other things that actually serve as distractions. And so if you haven't read the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, he talks about guilt-free spending, being able to automate your finances. Great book, I highly recommend. But he also says invest in the things that you care about and then mercilessly cut a lot of the things that don't matter to you, don't add value, and aren't a part of this lifestyle that you're hoping to create. And so clarity is key because when we do that, you'll be empowered with the information that will make it very clear on how to do this next piece. So what this is going to look like is being able to get a general sense of what's coming in and what's going out. And sometimes, don't get scared on me now. Sometimes we get spooked by our finances to the point that we avoid them. And so I'm not going to ask you that you need to get into the nitty-gritty right this second, but you do want to have a general sense of what is happening, because how are you supposed to know that you can save $1,000 if you don't understand that what comes in is more than what's going out? So some of the questions that I typically ask are like this. Do you feel like you make not enough money to cover your expenses, just enough money to cover your expenses, or more than enough to cover your expenses? Because being able to understand where you fall will also let you know what's possible as well. If you aren't making enough money to cover your expenses, ding, 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 this may not be your time to save thousands of dollars in a short amount of time. But if you are making just enough, we have to look at, is this because of a money management issue or a money making issue? We could always earn more money, so that's always on the table. But sometimes subtle tweaks can help us to be able to free up cash flow in order to save. And then if you know you're making more than enough money to pay your bills, like a lot of my students, it's about money management. What are we doing with the money that's either making it for it to just be going out without us understanding or knowing, but for us to be able to maximize and optimize our earning in order to create this lifestyle that we want to be able to have for ourselves and for our families, our friends, and, have an impact in our community. So, like I said, you have to assess whether you're not making enough, making just enough, making more than enough. That will let you know how you need to focus, whether it's on making more money, taking an eye on what you're spending so that you can be mindful and intentional about what you need to keep and what you need to cut. And if you make more than enough, then it's all about money management and making sure that your money's going where you want it to. Now, when I was on my debt-free journey, I actually paid off over $90,000 of student loans and credit cards in 3 years before I turned 30. This was back in 2020 when I became debt-free the first time. That I was a little obsessed, okay? My toxic trait is tunnel vision. I was obsessed with getting this debt out of the way. So for that 3 years, I oftentimes spent time like calculating. I called it post-it math. I would be at work and I would just be like jotting down what my numbers were, and so I would go over them regularly. You don't have to be as meticulous as me. You don't have to have tunnel vision the way I did, but what I am going to say is I always solved for my priority first. So what I mean by that is when I knew I was going to get paid, I would make sure obviously all my bills were covered, and that's like a prerequisite. All of us to some extent can make that happen, right? But as soon as my bills were covered, my baseline bills, and then I would do my goal next. So whatever amount beyond my bills was left, I would decide how much I was going to put toward debt or savings. And then my extra was whatever was the rest of the money, right? So I had my bills paid. I wanted to pay off $3,000 on debt this month. Whatever was extra, guilt-free spending. And so it didn't have to be even a zero-based budget if that's not something that, floats your boat or that you fancy. It could be a lot less rigid when you prioritize whatever your primary financial goal is. So making sure that you know what all of your expenses are is going to be helpful so that you can ensure that, okay, well, beyond my expenses, what do I have left? And I work with my students all the time. We sit down and go through this process together, get very clear on what that is. And then we're able to see, okay, this is how much you have to play with to be able to save, pay down debt, create sinking funds, whatever other financial goals that you might have. And so that piece is going to make it so that you can either automate, which is next, your finances, or do it manually. And so I'm going to share at the end, like I mentioned, what I think could be getting in your way, and not having clarity on how you're going to follow through on this plan is one of those things to some extent. I'll dive deeper later. And so it's like, are you going to automate it or are you going to do it manually? What does that look like? Like really having a thorough plan in place as far as how you're going to save whatever amount that you want. I always like reverse engineering. So I'll say, okay, it's February. I would like to save in the next 6 months, let's say $500 a month, right? And so starting with whatever your end goal is, shoot for the moon, land in the stars. If I don't hit the goal and I save half of that, okay, I still saved money, right? And so don't let perfectionism get in the way of you being able to just do an experiment and give it a try, okay? Just give it a try. And knowing that you create the goal, you create the process, you start experimenting, and life may life. You may save some money and have to spend it. It comes with the territory. And it doesn't feel great all the time. But how great is it that if you were saving, you had the money to use toward whatever that unexpected cost was, right? So I think, keeping that in the back of our minds and understanding that money is a muscle. And so we want to train it so that we can grow it and that it can get stronger. What is our biggest, strongest money muscle? It's our spending muscle. Why? Because we have to pay our bills. We like to eat, okay? We shop, we have to take care of our kids. So spending money is our biggest money muscle. So if we want to grow our saving and investing muscles, we have to exercise them more. Exercising them doesn't mean that we're exercising them to perfection. We're actually exercising them to failure because that's when they grow. So if you're able to save money and use it for an emergency, ding, 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 like A1, boom. You're getting this muscle to exert itself in a way that forces it to continue to progressively grow over time. Because then you've proven to yourself to some extent that I can save money. So if you use it, okay, this is an opportunity to save again. That makes sense? Now, one of the quick hacks that I love to share with students is being able to pair a habit you already have with a habit you want to create. So if you want to save more, you want to grow your savings muscle, what habits can you pair saving with? Is it that every time you go get coffee, you also send money to your savings? Is it that if you can't buy it twice, then you don't buy it once? So if I can't buy this backpack or these shoes or whatever it is more than one time, then I hold off on buying it at all, because I'm going to buy the bag or I'm going to buy the shoes, but I'm also going to put that same amount of money into my savings account. Like, how can you couple something you're already doing with something that you want to do more of? And that's just psychology and habit creation, right? Habit formation. So coming up with little tricks and little ways that can help you begin to exercise this muscle more is really helpful. Now, some people like to just automate their finances. I get it, because then it's out of sight, out of mind. It's going, doesn't matter whether you feel like it or not, the money is being moved. But I think there is something to, at least for a season in your journey, to manually save, because we're growing that muscle. And so you manually pay for the drive-through. We manually pay for, DoorDash or some of our bills, so on and so forth. So some of it really comes down to awareness of yourself and what are you going to be successful with, as well as an experiment to just see what's possible and what could happen. I had a student save $900 in 30 days because she did no spend January. So she decided not to spend any money beyond her baseline bills, and boom, by the end of the month, she had saved $900. And so every now and then, if you want to jumpstart your saving, you might do something like that. And if you don't want to do a whole month of saving, do a day a week, or do a couple of days a week where you don't spend any money, and you make sure that you're prepared with whatever it is that you might need on that day, so that you aren't, SOL, but that you are able to exercise restraint, not restriction, right? And those are two different things. And so, like I mentioned, right, once you automate things, who or what is helping you to be able to stay accountable? Like, we're adults. We're pretty mature. We try to do our best, but honestly, when we have accountability and support, it's so much easier to hit our goals. And why wouldn't we gift ourselves with something that makes our lives easier in a way when there's already so many things on our plate? So is there a friend that you can do this with? Is there a family member, a colleague, some way for you to ensure that you have community and support in this process, because it will increase your success rates and make it easier for you to follow through. And maybe you use that money to do something together, right? Another fun little hack might be to come up with sinking funds and create a vision around what that looks like for you. So if you want to travel, have, your travel sinking fund, and whenever you put money into that sinking fund, you are looking at like what hotels or excursions you're going to do, or where you might stay, or what airline you might fly with. And so just always coming back to your why is a great hack, because then it'll help you be able to decide on what you want overall, as opposed to what you feel like using the money on in the moment. Does that make sense? So now that we've talked about some hacks, things that will help you to be able to jumpstart saving quickly, I think, if you need more support, or you're like, I'm not so sure what that would look like in my life, like, I'm here to support. So please feel free to use the link in the description below, so we can get you absolute clarity on where you're at and how to get you to where you want to be when it comes to not only saving, but just having a holistic financial plan that helps you create financial freedom with ease. I'm here and would love to chat with you. So that link is in the description below. But there are things that could be shared, and you've probably watched a savings video before. You've probably, tried a budgeting app, or, process. Someone said to do this, or that. If I had to make an assumption, I would say that you probably have done a lot of things. And maybe you feel like you've done everything and you don't know why you're not making the progress that you would like when it comes to saving. That if you are having challenges, or you can watch this video and I could share quick tips that are helpful for you, if I'm being honest, I don't think that you'll execute on them fully, and here's why. What I've come to notice from thousands of hours of conversations and coaching with women and people from all over the world is that there's three things that need to be in place in order for sustainable long-term change to occur. And the first thing is strategy. I talked about that at the top when I said, look, what's the plan, right? How much do you make? How much is coming in? How much is going out? What are you going to do? How much do you want to set aside? What is your goal when it comes to saving? That's your strategy. It is your roadmap. It tells you how to get from point A to point B. And if you don't have a clear enough strategy, you're going to get in the car and start driving and find yourself at a location you don't want to be at the end of it, right? So a lot of people are lacking when it comes to strategy. But even if you have a strategy in place, if you don't have systems, then you will essentially oftentimes do what you feel like instead of interact with money and operate with it based on your future vision. So systems are your safety net. When I asked about being able to automate your finances, or are you going to do it manually? Well, if you're going to do it manually, what kind of systems do you need to put in place to make sure that you execute regardless of how you feel? Systems. They're going to catch you when you fall. They're going to make sure that progress is being made no matter what. What will those look like in your life right now and in this challenge where you're wanting to save money without sacrificing your lifestyle? And then the last thing, the most important one, and the research clearly shows that support can nearly guarantee your success at any goal when you have a meeting on the calendar for this goal. So if you don't have accountability, if you don't have community, if you don't have a coach, a mentor, a friend, a preacher, somebody that can support you in being accountable to yourself, because truthfully, we can't hold anyone else accountable. We can only be accountable to ourselves. If you don't have this thing in place, it's like shooting yourself in the foot. I think it's a blatant act of self-sabotage. And if you don't have accountability in your life, how can you find it? How can you start looking for what that might be for you in this season, right? I ask myself at this point, if there's an area of my life that I'm struggling with, do I have accountability in that area? Why don't I have accountability in that area? How can I get accountability in that area? Because I know what the research says. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm literally holding myself back. And I don't want you to hold yourself back, which is why I wanted to make sure to share these here at the end, because I don't want to just come and give you information and for you to feel like maybe you make some quick wins or you don't win at all and you're confused as to why that might be. I want you to understand that there's a whole psychological piece of this that comes into play. There's a whole emotional, there's a whole spiritual aspect that comes into play when we're doing all of these things. That money is about so much more than dollars and cents. And if you want support in being able to dive deep in figuring out, what your strategy is, the systems that are going to work for you in particular, and to get the support that can be absolutely life-changing, that I would love to be able to be here to see if I could do that, with you, do the journey with you. Like some of our students, like Brianna, who I told you was able to save $900 in 30 days just from doing a no spend month. Or Alicia, who her and her husband were able to save and pay down $17,000 in the first 6 months of joining our community. It's not rocket science. Truthfully, it is a proven process that you need to find, but one that's going to work for you instead of a blanket cookie cutter process that you pull off the internet. You need a tailor-made strategy that is built for you to make progress towards your goals. And now's the time for you to have that. You've probably been hitting your head up against the wall for however long, and I speak over your life that you're able to get that clarity, have the courage, and complete this plan that helps you to not only better your life, but I'm assuming your family and those around you. You deserve it. They deserve it. The world, our communities deserve women who are in a great place financially and able then to use their money to have a great impact in the world. So if you want to help us spread this word, please feel free to share the video with a like-minded woman, whoever you want to have accountability with. Say, hey, watch this video. I need an accountability partner. Do you want to do this with me? Start conversations. Like, make yourself the change maker in your community. step into a future version of yourself who is really good at saving money, managing your money, using it on purpose, and having a solid strategy so that you're able to show up authentically and have the freedom and flexibility to be your authentic self fully in the world, whatever that looks like for you. And I just have nothing but gratitude and appreciation for the time that we get to spend together, because I know it is precious and your time with me doesn't go unnoticed. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch this other video, and I think that your breakthrough is on the way. So don't give up. Keep going. You're worth it, and you are more than enough.